Warning! This episode contains graphic language and allusions to rape, elf furries, rock-based workout routines, and as always, teen angst. Also, there will be spoilers for chapters 9 through 13 of Brisingr, Book 3 of the Inherent Cycle by Christopher Paolini. Listen at your own risk.
Is this a podcast, or is this just fantasy? We're just two nerds and we love our fantasy. So join us if you want to nerd out. Time to start the podcast and see. Anyway, here's the show.
Hello, readers. I'm Dane Patterson, the host who was also working on a new motto because telling people I'm the smartest, toughest, and meanest person they've ever met when we first meet really seems to turn people off for some reason. I can't get it.
I'm sure it's just that, yeah. And I'm Jackie Lanier, and is this a podcast or is this just fantasy? The podcast where we also spend our mornings tossing boulders and flipping logs. How else do you think we got so jerked?
Hell yeah, brother. If you'd like to support us on a Patreon, there is a link in the show notes. If you can or just don't want to, we totally understand and just ask that you please rate us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts.
Yes, and as always, you should really visit our website at isthisjustfantasypod.com and hang out with us on social media at isthisjustfantasypod on TikTok or at justfantasypod on Instagram. Those two platforms are winning the content wars for us currently, but check back in a few months. You never know when one of them just might implode.
It really is just, we never know what's going on with them.
That's true. It's a bit of a downer, though, and what definitely isn't a downer, Dane, is how we kicked off our last episode.
Hell yeah.
Did you like that transition?
Yeah, it did, because we got revenge.
Yes, I'm trying to pick up some skills from your arsenal here on my transitions. I think I'm crushing it.
Perfect execution, Jax. 10 out of 10.
Thank you so much. I do want to get into my recap of what we covered last time before we jump into this episode's chapters. Are you ready?
I have never been. No, listen to me. Kevin, record. We're recording. I have never been.
I hope we're recording.
I have never been more ready than right now.
I don't know why that scares me for some reason.
It took me this many episodes.
that feels right. Yeah. I'm glad that we finally reached peak readiness. We've gotten over the learning curve.
Yeah. I just had to get used to it, you know?
That's fair.
I'm ready now.
Great.
So, begin.
Thank you so much. In our last episode, we faded in on Aragon really leaning into the badassery of his ancient order, chanting through the vast and grimy caverns of Helgrind to challenge the last living Razak to a duel to the death.
It was dope.
And when the Razak finally appears from the shadows, the boogie bird cryptically mentions that Galbatorix has almost discovered the true name and says he has more hearts than Aragon, which Aragon understands about as much as we do.
Just to say nothing.
Yes, yeah. But after some more light banter, the monster curses him with a fate that's eerily close to the one Angela foretold. So our guy's making a bit of a habit of picking up curses, which I can't imagine is great for him.
Can't be great.
No, but when they finally show down, Aragon levels way the fuck up, quickly dispatching the Razak with a wooden staff, dude, and finally getting the revenge he and you have been lusting after for 2+ books.
It was a bright spot for sure. It made my whole day.
I think it might have made your whole year, to be honest.
I mean, this has been great.
I'm, again, just so happy for you. But there's little time to dwell on that, per usual, because Aragon needs to get himself and Sloane the hell out of Helgrind. He gives us some nostalgia with a classic use too much magic, might die little situation.
Does that count as a head wound, or does he have to pass fully out?
Well, he did pass fully out.
Oh, well, there you go.
So, yes.
Okay.
Yes, we unfortunately had to stop counting official head traumas long ago. Those days are distant to me.
Aragon has one of those workplace. It's been this many days. He had to wipe it off.
Yes, exactly. He's probably pretty sad about it.
Yeah.
But after a run-in with a symbolic bumblebee and some moral posturing on the nature of revenge and a conflicted campfire barbecue where we're apparently eating meat again, Aragon and Sloane make it to safety, and Aragon finally confronts the butcher. And after an unlawful but thorough mind search and tacit admission of guilt the haters like to ignore, the conclusion with Sloane is really wild. Eragon accidentally just discovers his true name, no big deal, which allows him to come up with a plan for the butcher's punishment. After scrying to clear it with Islanzadi, who's in peak enigmatic and terrifying form, Eragon lays his curse upon Sloane, and it's the worst type of curse of all. Truly rehabilitative justice.
Yeah.
It's a pretty sweet deal if you ask us. Again, not the haters.
Yeah.
And then we wrapped up on Eragon's plotline last time as Sloane hurled a string of truly impressive insults at our guy and maybe admitted to a second murder in his raving before starting his journey to the Elven capital, leaving Eragon to head back to the Varden all by himself.
Oh.
I really am hoping you don't sing that as a high note.
Wait, what I was just thinking is, does Eragon start eating meat again after leaving the butcher?
No. Before.
Okay. No, I mean, but like he meets a butcher, instantly starts eating meat again. That's all I'm saying.
Just something about this guy. You think Sloane got to him?
Yeah. Sloane's like, but by the way, you should definitely start eating.
Definitely be eating meat, my guy.
Protein, bro.
I don't think Sloane's making any gains, to be honest. But I'll hold out. I'll keep that. I'll entertain that idea. But we smash cut over to our Queen President Naswada in a heated meeting with Fatawar, a warlord from the Wandering Tribes, who's here to get his due of status in the Varden, and Naswada and King Daddy's like culture and kin.
Yeah.
He's just like all over the place. But our girl puts her foot down, giving this guy the read of a lifetime, which results in him challenging her to the trial of the long knives.
Yeah, it's a classic. If you don't agree with me, let's cut ourselves with knives situation, Jax. We've all been there.
Weirdly, I have not, although you do often like to talk about what it feels like when you sustain a stab wound. So I have to imagine this might be real.
It was
for
one
you.
time.
Well, it was like 5 minutes ago.
Okay, that's true.
It's fresh.
That's a joke just for us.
Yes, but the winner will apparently take control of both the Varden and the tribes, so this is kind of high stakes. Naswada accepts the challenge and reveals she knew this was coming the whole time, and she came correct. She has an entourage. During the trial, Naswada and Fatawar must cut their arms repeatedly, and the winner is the one who endures the most cuts. Naswada does the most cuts in history to beat Fatawar, which is just love her. Of course she does. Winning the trial with the casual fringe benefit of undying respect and admiration from both the Wandering Tribes and the Varden. In her post-blood loss days, Queen President is still following trial protocol, having her wounds bound with no magic, when she unthinkingly just wrecks King Orin with some wild insults.
It's truly great.
So we may need to keep an eye on that little bit of workplace tension. But Naswada wakes up after her blood loss related blackout and immediately gets back to work. She delegates like a true boss bitch before a chat with our favorite cursed witch baby.
Oh, yeah.
Elva now looks about 6 years old, and she reveals that she foresaw Naswada losing the trial, but manipulated events to ensure her victory. Just another small, tiny thing we might want to be keeping an eye on here.
Yeah.
And last episode's section ended with Saphira's return to the Varden, where Naswada meets Katrina and loses her shit over Eragon's absence. Saphira screens a mental movie of the fight at Helgrind to catch everybody up, get everybody on the same page. And the last thing we saw was Arya sprinting over the horizon to bring our boy home. Are you ready to see if she can do it, Dane?
Oh, I can't wait. This has been the part of the book I've been waiting for. When Arya comes to save the day.
Well, she's a famously competent, ancient woman, warrior, magician.
She is cool. I mean, the thing
She's
about
100 years old.
I know. There's the thing about Arya is I like her, but I also
Do you?
struggle with her. No, it's one of those things like like I like I'm trying to think of like a good analogy here on the fly. I don't have one. She's cool. I don't know. She seems like she can't miss. You know who I actually
She definitely can't miss.
Yeah, you know who bothers me more actually is Angela. And I was wondering here, why doesn't she throw the bones for Nasawada? Don't you think Nasawada is top tier cool?
Absolutely. But
It seems like she only does it for top tier cool people.
I guess what seems odd about this is that Angela, when she gave Eragon his prophecy, she said she only does it for people that Solumbum talks to, the werecat. But it feels almost impossible that Solumbum hasn't talked to Naswada at some point.
I mean, for sure, Angela sent him to say, she's coming, like,
Yeah.
hold on or something, right? That's gotta have been the case.
Yeah, so I could agree. It feels weird. Also, I want to know. I
kinda wanna know, too.
Fortune.
I wanna know her
She's
fortune.
So cool.
Yeah, I totally agree. But we don't have time for that because we have a lot of chapters to cover today.
This is meaty today.
Yeah, so we're going to get right into it. Chapter 9, Escape and Evasion.
Ooh, both.
Apparently, there's like a 6th-level rogue in this group.
Oh my god.
Aragon is on the run, literally, and as he's running like a gazelle, hiding from Thorn and the many troops looking for him, he's reflecting on the past year of training and fighting in wars.
I love a boy that reflects.
Yeah, and how this ultra marathon is kind of a nice break. It's really a measure of the constant stress that he's under. That he's like, this non-stop
like
running is a break.
Yeah. I'm running 50 miles a day, and it's kind of nice.
It feels
honestly.
relaxing.
Just really chill.
Yeah, he's like, well, now is he turning into a run bro? Or don't they always do that? They're like, running calms me. Anyway, he's trancing out, listening to birds and the sounds of nature, like the elf-trained vegan he's become. When he's surprised to see 6 soldiers heading his way.
Sometimes vegan, Dane.
Yeah, is he pescatarian now? When have we hit that yet? He turns himself invisible with a second to spare before a soldier sees him. And this gives him the perfect cover for some good old-fashioned eavesdropping. And considering how creepy Aragon can be sometimes, I'm truly surprised that this is the first time we've seen this little spy trick, but also happy somehow. I don't know.
Proud of him?
Yeah.
Well, he did spy on Brom and Jode.
That's true.
Early
He
days.
was dropping some eaves then, huh? We learned from the soldiers that they've been working hard looking for someone Galbatorix wants. I wonder who that is. Interestingly, we learned some things about Murtagh. And I had to bring up our boy Murtagh.
Yeah, I was going to say, and we couldn't let that slide by.
Nope. One, the soldiers know of him and Thorn and think he's a strong and capable because of course they do.
Oh my gosh.
Our emo warrior teen totally is.
Well, yes, that's true. I mean, a little evil, but strong and capable.
Just a little dabble.
Emo and cute.
And 2, maybe Murtagh has been talking badly about the king and the war and might even have run away before.
About the king and what?
He's about the war.
The wall?
The wall.
Oh, weird.
Yeah. He's such a bad boy. That came out in the weirdest.
Wow.
That's not the way I wanted to say that.
Immediately jarring.
I immediately regret it. I mean, he's such a bad boy, like he's a bad boy.
He's such a bad boy.
That is how it came out, isn't it? Okay.
Well, that's what we like to call a Freudian slip, Dane.
And that is really all we get.
You're going to be done talking about Murtagh now?
But I am interested.
Okay.
I want more of our evil emo brother. I think the takeaway is that Murtagh is rebelling from Gal, which is nice. But moving on from that encounter, please, as fast as possible. Aragon is plagued by nightmares in his waking dreams, and he's seeing the dead and feeling their injuries, which is not great.
Horrifying, yeah.
Yeah. The way it's written sounds like a panic attack to me here.
Oh, I could see that.
Yeah, and he's ashamed afterwards that heroes in stories like Brom and Roran don't seem to feel this way. And when he can't shake himself out of this funk, he decides to just run through the night. No sleep for you.
Yes, so he is turning into, I just run the pain away.
Yes.
Hey, I really hate to break it to you, Aragon, but wherever you run, there you are, bud.
Yeah, that is the classic
You can't
saying.
run away from your problems.
My wife says that all of the time. And that's right, Aragon. Just run from your problems. It totally works.
Yes.
It's going to happen. And you have to wonder why he isn't drawing in the dirt to really bring himself some peace of
yes,
mind.
that would work, I think. Well, it's kind of funny because he's ruminating so much on Roran and Brom didn't feel this way, but he and Roran just had an extensive chat about how Roran too has crippling PTSD.
Yeah, I think another thing I would think about is it's kind of like when you think someone else tells you that they're worried, but you're worried, and you only feel your worry.
Yeah.
So if someone like Roran is like, yeah, I can't sleep sometimes. I think sometimes
we should drink
drink
the pain away.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he just likes Roran. Roran's his older brother type of thing.
Yeah, or you just get so in your own head about stuff that you can't really see what's going on with other people, or
he's having panic attacks. He's not thinking straight. You know what I mean?
That's true. I don't know anything about that. Just being caught in your own internal racket and missing some clear signs that people are willing to help you. That's weird.
Notoriously not like you at all. Aragon finds himself near a broken tower that he thinks is an ancient elven outpost, not evil outpost. Here he
we don't know that.
Well, that's true. Here he finds an old man gardening who calls out to him for help with his garden without even looking up in his direction, and spooky. The man is Tinga, son of Ingvar, a hermit. That's just what we learned.
We love a hermit.
Yeah. Aragon ignores the potential stranger danger and zens right the fuck out on garden work. So now grandma vibes for sure.
Yes. It's just very coastal grandma hanging out in this garden.
Also, this is better than running from his pain. So I'm going to ignore the obvious red flags about the stranger because, you know, he's gardening. He's working in the sun.
Sure.
Yeah. After chores, we see Tenga's tower is filled with books, scrolls, and tons of paper. Is he a classic wizard, Jax?
Oh.
Yeah, I think he might be because with no language, he points his finger and a fire blazes in the fireplace.
Boom.
He's a wizard.
Wizard classic.
Yeah, this actually scares the shit out of Aragon but Tinga doesn't even notice. And Aragon mostly thinks how crazy Tinga is for not saying the ancient words to use magic because of how dangerous it is.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but
just for like something small like lighting the fire.
Yeah. But dangerous people do have their perks.
Fun.
Because Aragon finds 6 ancient language compendiums.
Oh, shit.
Which would be extremely rare for someone to have even one.
Okay.
Let alone 6. And I'm thinking since Garo, Bram, Ajahad, and Hrothgar didn't work out, maybe Tenga could be his new father figure. We could call him Hermit Daddy, perhaps?
Well, he's very, very old, so maybe Hermit Granddaddy.
Hermit Granddaddy.
Hermit Grandpapa.
But maybe not. If we want to just get in a general sense of Tinga's vibe, I'll read just a snippet of what he says to Aragon in this chapter. I search for answers. A key to an unopened door. The secret of the trees and the plants. Fire, heat, lightning, light. Most do not know the question and wander in ignorance. Others know the question, but fear what the answer will be. Bah! For thousands of years we've lived like savages. Savages! I shall end that. I shall usher in the age of light. I shall praise... Yeah, it's wild. You don't know the question. Still, I see you understand my search. It goes on like this for a while. Totally chill, stable dude, it seems like.
Yeah, I don't know if we could be spending a lot of time with this guy. I think with Aragon's, communication skills such that they are, I think this is the last thing he needs to add to his repertoire is just loud ranting.
Yeah, exactly. We also learned that Tenga has had a woman who made stuff. Do you think it's Angela, Jax? It's the only character that is magical and kind of crazy. It is Angela.
Okay.
And she did have a master. We do know that. So it's got to be her, right?
I mean, probably. Or maybe Selena. That hot bitch pops up everywhere. She's just always in random spots.
Actually, you're right. I mean, because it would make sense, all the books. Anyway, Tenga rants like a loon and Aragon slowly backs out of the tower and starts running again. He gets the fuck out of there so funny, so fast.
Oh my God.
You know what's bad when even Aragon is like, this seems dangerous.
This has got to be bad.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to make it here.
Yeah. Well, Aragon runs for 2 more days before rolling up to a village he can't really avoid without attracting attention.
Yeah.
So he heads into civilization. He heads into the local tavern, which is packed with migrants, refugees, and a mysterious hot woman surrounded by 4 large, drunk, angry men.
That seems like a bad spot to be in.
Yes. And yet another move from Christopher Paolini to write Garo weirder than anyone else in this book series. Aragon thinks of a nugget of wisdom from his uncle father. If you drink to forget your lot in life and not for pleasure, you ought to do it where you won't disturb anyone. Yeah, that's right.
I do love that hot take, Garo, just being like, well, alcoholism's not just bad on its face, I guess, but just don't do it in public.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
In front of people.
Go be an alcoholic in your own house.
I don't disagree, but I mean, is this the only wisdom we've gotten from Garo other than that moment with Roran in the first book?
Yeah, other than when he just gave really beautiful and salient advice to his 2 boys. Yeah, I think this is it. Well, and Bram saying that he was a proud fool. Considered reading a luxury.
Yeah. Oh, Garo. I really need to ask. We need to ask Paolini about Garo. I just have so many questions. Anyway, Aragon knows the woman is Arya when she throws off one man's hand with force.
Yes.
And her hood falls down.
Ooh.
Yeah. He noticed that flair for the disdain of those around her anyway. She has used magic to shape her likeness into a human.
Oh.
And Aragon reaches his mind to hers, and she lets her guard down when she realizes it's Aragon. And after some light slut shaming by the locals, the men finally leave, and Aragon and Arya head up to her room.
You love to see it. Yeah, it's a tough look for all the guys in this
weird.
small town.
Yeah.
They're just dicks.
Yeah. In the room, Aragon notices that Arya is in a dress.
Ooh.
It's the first time he's seen this, and obviously he's a fan. And Arya does
It's like, well, she's usually like so hot, but now she's like the hottest person I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's crazy. And Arya does what she does best. She questions him, stonewalls him, calls him a coward, implies that he is a tool to be used by others, tells him he makes an effort to get into trouble, and then tells him to remember who he is. I always love when we get an Arya in the chapter. She's so fun. To our main protagonist. Finally, Aragon sticks up a little bit for himself and tells her he never forgot. And good for you, man. Stick up for yourself.
I do like to see him stand up for himself for sure. I mean, he is kind of making an effort to get himself into some shit.
But she's not his mom. You know what I mean? It's just like, who are you? Anyway, Aragon explains here that he doesn't want to be a judge, jury, and executioner. He doesn't want the responsibility. He does not feel wise or intelligent enough to punish people by putting them to death. And he'll let those who are leaders pass the sentences of death to other people. So at least for right now. So he's like, I did something as an alternative because I didn't want to just like execute someone.
Yeah.
Then we get special Arya magic that I don't think we've ever heard of before because Arya, right? Arya explains that she found him by first guessing his route and then, quote, listening to the whispers of the land.
Yeah, like you do. I'm always out listening to the whispers of the land, Dane.
Is that why you're frequently late?
Yes, they never lead me astray. Only in time.
Yes. I'm just picturing Arya holding up like a rock to her ear and talking to herself. She says that a writer can't walk through the world unseen or heard. It's very nature elvish. I just can't. It's just Arya seems to be able to do everything always, except when she's criticizing everyone and everything. But anyway, we're moving on. Aragon then bumbles about complimenting her dress and just being unable to sleep next to the girl he likes, and this is very cringy.
Hated it.
Yep. Aragon is being a bean farmer hard in this chapter. He even thinks his love for her isn't hopeless. He still has a chance.
Ugh, yeah, he's like sleeping on it's classic, like only one room at the inn. But YA, not fantasy romance.
Yeah.
But it's like, he's like sleeping in front of the door being like, I bet I could still get it. It's like, dude.
She just called you a coward. Anyway.
Yeah.
Come on, Aragon. This guy really needs someone to sit him down and just tell him that Nasawada is the one for him. I don't understand why Aragon likes Arya. My only guess is he was left by his mom as a kid, so he's looking for a woman that will give him the cold shoulder on a regular basis.
That's sad.
That's my only theory I have right
now. I mean, we've talked about this before. Arya is immortal, and like the thing you don't like about her is that she's like too cool and too powerful and never does anything wrong.
No, I don't like that she's too cool, too powerful. I just like that she does that and then also just disses our main character at all times. Like, it's one thing to be better than him. It's another thing to be better than him and then be like, come on, you coward, keep up. It's like, okay, dude, whatever. Anyway.
Well, she is better than him.
I mean, and that's the thing. I totally agree. But
I guess, like, yeah, if she just is great at magic, great at fighting. Yeah. She's hot.
Yeah. Her mistakes are understandable. I think one of the things that the fans say a lot is like she's just gone through a lot, so she's difficult. And it's just like we don't get a lot of that. So it's just anyway, that's not the point. Before dawn, they both jump up and out the window and climb over the wall. Aragon being annoyed the whole time. You go first. No, you go first. No, after you.
Yes.
Aragon, my dude, I am not the largest fan of Arya, and even I feel for Arya here. I'm like, come on, dude, stop it.
Yeah, it is wild. It's like when he's like in the Battle of Farthendor, he's like, I should go protect her, and it's like, dude,
no, she's protecting you.
She could kick your ass.
Yeah. Once at the village, Aragon and Arya scry our queen president. Aragon sees that Nasawada is hurt, but she is cagey about why.
Yeah.
Nasawada says that they have to call mom every day or she will come looking. Aragon asks to see Saphira, and it sounds like she breaks Nasawada's whole tent to see him. They only look at each other for a minute before talking through Nasawada as like the mouthpiece for Saphira.
Yeah.
And they keep it surface, seeing as the two hotties are listening. Aragon apologizes silently, and it's very cute. I love it.
Yeah, you definitely like feel how much they miss each other.
Yeah, they love each other, dude. It's great. And this chapter ends with Aragon running off, super ready to be back with Saphira.
He is like, this was too much.
Yeah.
In retrospect, I don't want to be alone out here. I want to be back with my my soul bond.
It's been like 3 days, and he's like, they're in great pain.
Yeah. Also, why would Aragon not have scried Nasawada at any point? I just thought about that. Like, why does it take Arya to convince him to be like, you should call your boss, dude? You can't just take a bunch of PTO without letting your boss know.
And this is the defense of Arya. She's the only one thinking here. I get it. It's like, oh, come on, man.
I was like, oh, I didn't realize he could have
It's been a
called
while.
her at any time.
Maybe he thought like Saphira was getting there. He didn't want her to be pissed off earlier than she needed to be. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's all I got.
Well, that takes us to chapter 10, A Delicate Matter. This chapter opens where all the greatest pieces of writing do. Roran's rippling back muscles.
For you, yeah, this is great.
Dude, this chapter is wild. Buckle up, dude. Roran is just casually doing his daily workout, tossing boulders around a clearing. And it's just like, damn, Christopher Paolini, what? I just need to know, like, what horny lady he had at his house while he was writing, because, like, whoever that woman was, Christopher Paolini did her a solid in these chapters. It is a lot about Roran and his muscles. But Roran isn't just out here bulking on his own. He's working through drills with the Varden's regiment. So he's, like, doing his
a
army
trainer.
training.
He's doing the right forms.
Yeah.
He's not going to get injured.
Yes, and in his internal monologue, he catches us up a little about where the people of Carvajal stand in the Varden, and almost to a man, they've all joined up with the rebels and started training as soldiers. So they're all going through their paces now, like being not just pitchfork wielding villagers. They're getting legit. And apparently a life of war is no match for the strains of a bean harvest in the summer. And that's not a joke I'm making. That's an actual line Roran thinks in this book. He's like, well, it's no summer beet harvest, so I'm sure to be able to hack it. You're like, what? Killing people?
This is part of like fantasy theming,
funny.
right? Like very Robert Jordan.
Yes.
He does this too. Like the farmer folk are actually the tough people that could make the world quake when they get going, right?
Yes, yeah. It's definitely like the hidden blood of kings in the normal folk of the farm.
Like normal folk, when they get riled, they've been doing hard work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But as Roran heads off the practice field for the day, we get just a touch more gratuitous hunkiness as he tumbles a massive log end over end as a quick cool down. Just like, dude, this guy, get him, Roran.
He's deaf on creatine now, right? Like,
I don't know if I know what creatine is, but it sounds gross.
It's definitely helping him get strong.
Maybe just steroids. There's no reason it's illegal. He's
He's on
not in
TRT.
competition. He's not a professional
Katrina's like giving him shots at his butt.
Yeah. Well, he needs to get strong to protect his wife.
What Christopher
Paolini
has not talked about is the acne that he's starting to break out in.
Well, he has been described as looking more like Garrow as time goes on, so TBD.
So the haunted eyes have been steroids all along.
Maybe. Hard to know. I mean, well, Garrow couldn't have been on steroids, so I guess that rules that out.
That's true.
I guess we can definitively say Roran's not juicing. Yeah. He's all natural.
Yeah, that's fair.
When Roran makes it back to his tent, he's ruminating on how like surreal it is that he's low-key famous in the Varden, and I really can't imagine he's all that surprised when his very next move, he gets to his tent and he publicly douses his aforementioned rippling back muscles with his water skin. Like, it's just like, Christopher, what is this chapter?
It's pretty great. You can imagine a dude in the gym who's like flipping that big tire over and over, just stops and pours his like 40-ounce Nalgene over his head. So like low-key, very performative, right?
And does all that while having the thought, it's so weird that like everybody just knows who I am. Like,
throws long hair back.
I can't imagine why. You're like, dude, okay. But it seems all his impromptu outdoor shower, it has a purpose.
Yeah,
thank
to
God.
entice the ladies, Jackie.
Just one lady, Dane. But it has a second purpose. Then he needs to put on his Sunday best to go see a man about a dog, apparently. And on his way, he's accosted by Bridget, remember her.
Who could forget?
Who just wants to give him a friendly reminder about his car's extended warranty. Just kidding. It's the blood debt that he owes her for Quimby's niblets she wanted to remind him about. I always get those two things mixed up. I get a lot of calls about blood debts and extended warranties.
Gotcha.
So,
Yeah.
But Roran decides it's useless to waste time worrying about someone who's sworn to kill him, and he just heads over to Horse's tent to check up on his boo.
I sometimes just cannot believe Roran and Aragon were raised together. All the cool went to Roran.
Yeah, he's just like, well, this bitch wants to kill me. She'll probably do it someday too. She's wily, but can't worry about that.
He's like, should have come earlier when I was cooling down.
Yes.
Maybe those murderous thoughts would calm down, lady.
I'm sure they would have.
Or would they make him more hot? You know what I'm saying?
Well, I don't know. You were pretty into Bridget, so
I do like Bridget.
Yeah, I could see you shipping.
I like a competent woman. We like competent people on this show.
That's true.
Yeah.
Competent, positive.
Yeah.
Katrina apparently feels the same as these readers about Roran's new fitness regimen because they're all over each other when he gets over to Horsts. They hint at a not even slightly mysterious secret that Katrina is keeping, and then they just happen to talk immediately after about Elaine's pregnancy.
I wonder what it could be.
I have no idea.
Do you think she has a dragon egg?
Yes, I bet that. Well, a stone, a
Yes.
mysterious stone.
She found in the spine.
Yes, it's hollow. But apparently, Elaine, Horst's wife, is not doing great after the stress of the trip and battle. So she's having a tough little pregnancy there, which is, I'm like, but the Horsts, they're so
Horsts are the
nice.
best.
But once Katrina has sufficiently fussed with Roran's clothes before his big meeting, she sends him off. He heads straight for the command tent to request an audience with Niswada. She admits him and they get down to business. Niswada recognizes that Roran is a badass, which well spotted.
Yeah.
And she'd like to promote him to middle management in the Varden, but she doesn't necessarily know him well enough to be positive he'll make a good leader for soldiers who are strangers. Plus, she's worried about the risk to Aragon if she sends Roran like charging in with the vanguard. She's like, this maybe isn't going to be great. But Roran offers the solution that he'll just keep charge of his men from Carvajal.
Yeah.
But Niswada's pretty savvy here too. She's like, they're not trained soldiers. I'd prefer them with an experienced captain. And she thinks if she lets Roran lead people he's familiar with, she still won't be able to like give him an accurate performance review. Like when quarterly employee reports come out, she's going to be like,
well, she got shareholders.
hard to say.
She's got
shareholders to report to.
Yeah.
So Niswada's solution is to place Roran in an elite search and destroy force under command of the character with, I think, the best name in these books so far, Martland Redbeard, Earl of Thune.
It is def up there with Torkenbrand and Dormnad.
Dormnad. I mean, Torkenbrand.
Torkenbrand was
R.I.P. He sucked so bad.
He sucked bad. And
Got
Dormnad.
decapitated, but Dormnad we never got to meet, sadly. Maybe there's still time. There's still time.
Justice for Dormnad.
Justice for Dormnad. He does work with the Varden, technically.
Yeah, I guess technically. But Martland Redbeard is dope.
Yes, Martland Redbeard. So far, I think that's my favorite name. Maybe because we get two names for Martland Redbeard. And he's the Earl of Thune.
The Earl of Thune.
I like it.
Yeah, pretty dope.
I just already want to love this guy, I think. They need to take out an Imperial patrol and do some scouting, and Redbeard is going to report back on Roran's performance. So Niswada just really doesn't miss, does she? Like, she's crushing it. She's a super smart plan for Roran to earn his stripes and like do something that's going to be useful. He'll be under command of someone she trusts.
Also, I agree with Niswada on this. She's a smart lady. She should really be in charge.
She really is in charge.
That's my thought. That's all I have to add.
I'm glad you've co-signed her.
She should definitely
Dane's
be in charge.
Stamp of approval.
That's a Dane stamp of approval right there.
But for his part, Roran's actually pretty down for this plan, only he wants to delay a few days. And he realizes, Dane, he's going to have to tell Niswada his big secret. Very secret. And it's that he's already gone and knocked Katrina up. Believe it or not. She is already pregnant. Because of course she is. And I only have one question. Who's going to make the strong hammer indeed joke? We can't just let it go unsaid here. It would be a dereliction of our duty as podcasters, but...
I mean, it looks like that strong hammer sure can bang. Or perhaps pound. You could say he nailed her, maybe? Or, no. She grabbed the hammer by the head.
Oh, no. I'm sorry I said it, but it was coming one way or the other.
I mean, so was Katrina, you know what I'm saying?
Hopefully.
Oh, come on.
I trust Roran.
Yeah, I trust Roran.
Okay, Dane, back on topic.
Sorry.
Roran also says he wants Aragon to perform his and Katrina's marriage ceremony to give Katrina what little status he can offer, since he is, remember, responsible for her not having like a dowry like a normal woman or a family anymore. So,
to his credit, he did save her from a literal boogie monster, but sure, I get this.
Yeah, it's not great for her still. I think he's feeling pretty guilty.
Yeah.
And this chapter wraps up with Niswada on brand as ever, being the best. She agrees to Roran staying behind to be married ASAP. So she's like, fine, you have a new job, but like you can start after your vacation. And on top of that, she says, I loved this too. She said she'll give Katrina her own treasure from the dwarves as a dowry. So now Roran and Katrina are our rich friends.
Yeah.
Like, Jode and Helen
Yeah.
definitely had their fortunes turned.
Yes.
So they're poor now.
They're our
Roran
poor
and-
friends.
Yes. Roran and Katrina have had the come up of a lifetime. That's fucking cool. Niswada, good for her. She's like, yeah, what do I need to be rich for?
She's like, I don't need to be rich.
Give it to your girl. I noticed that she's pretty hot, but she's not that hot.
Yeah.
So she could use some of my money, I think.
Still need some money to up her game.
All she wants in return is Roran's loyalty. And if this doesn't get it, basically nothing will. So
Yeah, that's
I'm
true.
pretty impressed with Niswada here.
Yeah,
That's
it's pretty
where
good.
That chapter wraps up.
And I would stay here, but we got to go to chapter 11, Blood Wolf.
Ooh, if that chapter about Roran was horny.
Wait till we get through this one. This starts with an observation about Roran and Aragon from Nasawada. She mentions that as similar as they are, and although Aragon is probably one of the most dangerous men in the world, he isn't hard or cruel. But Roran, on the other hand, is a hard man.
Yeah, he is.
And not just in the way Katrina has experienced. She even thinks to herself that if Roran turns on her, she would have to destroy him to stop him.
That is bleak.
Wild. I like this because we just see how calculating Nasawada is,
Yeah.
and at the same time how others see the brother cousins.
Yeah, that's a good point. I like that outsider kind of perspective on
Yeah.
them because it's sometimes really easy to sit and look at them and be like, these are two men raised by Garrow.
Yeah, but they are appearing different to other people.
Yeah.
And on the heels of that thought, she checks her scar wounds to make sure they are still healing well.
Yep.
And I love how anyone else would die of infection in this world with all these wounds, but nope, Nasawada's got that rich people healthcare. This ain't no HMO. She got that personalized concierge doctor shit.
Oh my God. On-call PPO, bitch.
Exactly. Dude. Anyway, after Nasawada goes through her warband's government to-do list, she grabs the scary witch baby. She hides behind her tent and rides off on her horse to Triana, who is just casually questioning a member of the Black Hand. No big deal.
Oh my God.
Is she taking a baby to a torture party, Jax?
It does sound like it. I do love Niswada, but the beginning of this chapter, you're like, oh, damn, girl,
She's intense.
Ooh, she's really intense. Very competent, though.
Very competent.
Very competent.
After leaving the pain party, she is alerted that the elves are approaching the camp. The 12 expert spellweavers sent by Islanzadi and Eldest to be Aragon's personal
They
guard.
finally made it. I guess
mean,
it's only been like a week.
it's only been a
We're like,
week.
God, finally.
They did run straight. They just ran for a week. Yeah.
I guess that's fair.
By this point, Nasawada's personal guard have finally caught up to her because remember, she ran away on a horse.
right.
And the head of the guard would like a private word with her. He's basically, in a super polite way, tells her that she shouldn't have left the guard and that if she doesn't respect the Nighthawks, the rest of the Varden won't respect them. And there's a protection. He goes on to say there's a protection in people being so scared of her guards that they don't even try to attack her when they're
Okay,
around.
yeah, that makes sense.
Basically, he's pissed about PR, and rightfully so, I would
Yeah.
say. I mean, because
I mean,
obviously,
he was super cool too. I did like reading this guy because
Yeah.
you're like, oh, he's really just like trying to do his fucking
He's like-
job out here, and
he's like,
he's
"Come
like
on."
so nice to her. He clearly cares about her and like
Yes.
wants to protect her at all costs. And
Probably
he's like,
get
girl, help me help you.
yeah, probably getting that nice health care. He's like, he's like really putting in the work.
100%.
Nasawada apologizes and compliments him. She also gives him her word that it won't happen again.
Yeah.
So she's super cool about it.
Yeah.
Nasawada further smooths things over in just the nicest way by saying that he created the new motto for the Nighthawks: the smartest, the toughest, and the meanest. Then the elves come and oh boy, aren't they something? I will say, I kind of love this. It is clear that Paolini loves the elves in this whole story, and while that can pose some problems in some cases, it does make their presence always have an air of otherworldliness and magic, which is totally what you want.
Yeah,
And
we're just doing definite mystery anytime the elves are around.
Yeah, and although I do think we learned something else about maybe one of Paulini's interests,
Yeah.
which might be furries.
Oh, you think? Well, yeah, that tracks. I know where it's going.
Yep, the first elf named Bloodgarm is in a
Yeah, that'll do it.
is in a loincloth, and his whole body is covered in dark blue fur with bangs, tufted ears, yellow eyes, sharpened teeth, and hands with claws.
I love that the rest of it is just like animal theming, but then also he had to be like, and he's got a sweet set of bangs. Was this like, when did this book come out? Is this like peak
2011.
like Justin Bieber, Jonas Brothers?
Like his new girl
flip
about to come
hair,
out? Do we have the like new girl bangs? Our bangs? This is peak bangs, I think.
Well, Bangs on Men is, I think, maybe a little earlier.
A little earlier?
That's early aughts.
That's fair.
Or mid-aughts.
Well, there's no time to know because Nasawada thinks Bloodgum smells good and blushes. It's kind of furry adjacent, if you ask me.
Yeah, for sure.
The rest of the elves are pretty much your standard elf, Arya-like, if you
Yes.
will. There are 6 men and 6 women, and the wolf one is the leader.
The sexy furry one is the leader.
Yeah, I like this furry guy. How do you feel about the sex pheromone thing, Jacqui?
Dude, when I was reading this, it was definitely something I remember stuck out to me.
Oh, really? This
Even
stuck out?
from my first few reads, because I was just like, you mean what? But like as an adult, I'm like, this is deeply wild.
Okay, imagine you're the editor and you're reading this.
You know what I kind of like to imagine is that like Christopher Paolini writes it is like, yeah, you know, we talked before about how the elves are very in tune with nature and want to be kind of animal-like. And so he just writes an elf that like kind of looks like a wolf. And then the editor comes in and is like, can we make it sexy, do you think?
Add some sex pheromones, Chris.
That's my personal headcanon. Feels like an editing decision for sure.
Yeah, this is for whatever's happening in these chapters. Something has taken a turn. Anyway, look, from PTSD to sex pheromones, just a quick wrap around. Bloodgarm tells Nasawada that Cianon has mostly been taken, except the tower where the Lord is hiding. The elves are already kicking ass better than anyone else. Already
Love
taken
to
a
see
city.
it. Hell yeah.
Yeah, Nasawada hasn't even been able to siege a single town or city, and the elves are already have one. They're
Well,
like,
she
"We
has
got
won 2 battles. She
Yeah.
just isn't close to an urban locale. She's not waging urban warfare yet, Dane.
That's true. Nasawada is happy, but thinks how terrifying it must be to have elves that are
Dude.
strong and otherworldly invade your city.
Yes.
I mean, if they are all sexy, furry, pheromone elves, it's probably a weird experience.
It's probably a party. I don't know. Listen, if I'm going to go, Dane, if I'm going to get murdered in my home, I might as well be by a sexy, magical furry.
I feel like I just learned a lot about you, Jacqui. Bloodgarm says all the classic stuff we've come to expect from the elves in the series so far. There's a lot of nature imagery, but it basically, we will destroy anyone that opposes us, and our queen is mighty by far. So, also, they already know Arya and Aragon are gone and will wait for them in the camp and help where they can. And if Murtagh and Thorn come, they think they can overmatch them.
That is wild, dude. Also, it's cool of them, though, to be like, hey, we know our guy's not here. Like,
Yeah.
we can't really start work yet, but like, we'll help where we can. In the meantime, we'll just stay. We'll
Yeah.
chill.
These elves ain't scared.
Yeah. His Lanzati didn't raise no bitch.
Yeah, Bloodgarm boasts that his 12 could take on 3 of the Sworn back then
That is
in the day.
crazy.
And I want to know how he came to that conclusion. Did they test this theory out? It seems very and oddly specific.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
What's a unit of measurement on magical strength?
Or is this one of those lies that is so super specific that no one questions whether it's true? They're like, oh, that sounds specific.
You definitely tried 4 at one point, and it did not go well.
Exactly.
You know an upper limit.
And what is amiss here for me? Nasawada pulls the nice man she was talking to in her guard.
Yeah.
His name is Garvin, just for all of us, and makes him read the minds of the elves to make sure that they are not spies for Gal. He casts magic as well. And the same thing the twins did at the end of book 1 to Aragon and Murtagh.
Yes.
And I have a problem with this, I think.
Okay.
First, Bloodgarm tells her that it is very dangerous and that whoever tries, quote, can become lost and not return to their bodies.
Yeah, that's terrifying.
This seems like a pretty heavy risk when you can just use the ancient language.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you could just have them swear.
Yeah, because we see
Oh,
this. Yeah, we see this happen all the time. Murtagh has to work for Gal because of the ancient language. Aragon has bound himself to Nasawada through the ancient language, and Aragon had to swear an oath to Arya in the ancient language to get to the map of the map of the Varden in that first book.
Yeah.
So Nasawada knows all this. Her guard all swore to her in the ancient language. She knows
Yeah.
he's good. I mean, there's no risk to this. Why risk Garvin? We should protect Garvin at all costs.
That is true.
Yeah, and all Nasawada has to do here is have the elves say in the ancient language that they are no enemies to the Varden and that they in no way work for Galbatorix or for the demise of the Varden. That's risk-free.
Yeah.
While she makes this man needlessly do this is really strange to me. It paints one of my favorite characters as a little cruel. That's why it was one of my tops. But even Angela, who, she offers, she's there too. Just, by the way.
Of course Angela's
Yeah,
there.
Of course she is.
Well, isn't she famously like, I want to be in the mix anywhere I can.
Yeah, I bring
Your
her
girl
up.
likes to know the tea.
I didn't bring her up because normally she's just there.
Yeah.
But here she even offers herself
do it, yeah.
And Garvin's like, and he's basically she's like, no, Garvin will do it
Dude.
because she doesn't trust Angela either,
Which is
is
also
which is fair.
Yeah, I guess the only thing I can think is there must be some sort of loophole by which like Galbatorix could have you swear to serve him and include somewhere in there that like you can swear opposing, like
I guess that's possible.
It seems slightly reasonable that like in the century of unhinged murder wizarding, Galbatorix has figured out some way to like get people to be able to say like, I'm not working against you at all.
Yeah.
A classic crossed fingers behind your back loophole, Dane.
Yeah, I thought.
In your mind, though.
That's fair. Well, anyway, Garvin basically loses his mind. He has, quote, the dreamy air of a sleepwalker.
Oh.
And seems to be broken of spirit at the end.
Dude, it was really sad.
Kind of sad.
Another thing that, like, definitely this is not something I remember from any previous reads, and reading it this time, I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, even I was like...
He seems so nice.
I know, he seems like a nice guy. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, Naswada even thinks of taking him out of the guard instantly.
It's crazy.
And then is snappy with the elves and tells them they didn't warn her. And this is on Naswada. The elves even say that they can't change what they are and who they are, and they're not going to apologize for it, which I mean, I have trouble all the way around here. Justice for Garvin.
Justice for Garvin, dude. And yeah, I think most of the blame is with Naswada. They did try to warn her.
They
tried. Were like, you can do it if you have to, but I'm not saying it's going to end well.
They're not aggressive with it, but he's a furry. I mean, it should have been obvious.
Look at the man, Naswada.
Yeah. Next, Naswada is a little distracted from what I assume is more elven sex magic, as the smell of Bloodguard makes her want to run her hands through his mane, and she can't focus.
Christ.
Elva comes in clutch with the memory of Whorehound Candy. Even the name here, guys. And tells Naswada to remember that horrible taste to focus on.
Dude.
So that helps her with the sex pheromones. Also, I wrote from here on out that Bloodguard be known as Whorehound. Thanks, Chris.
Well, I don't know. Maybe Whorehound Candy.
Yeah.
He's a whole snack. Allegedly.
Anyway, Naswada covers by asking why Bloodguard looks so different from the other elves. And his reply is also funny. He says that his shape pleases him and that animals are beautiful. And he took the attributes of the most beautiful animals, but that one day it might be the animals of the sea that he finds beautiful, and when that day comes, he will disappear into the sea forever. Jeez, Bloodguard.
Yeah, that is some like peak elf shit.
Really intense.
Yeah.
Just asking you why you look that way, bud. Anyway, Naswada believes she'll have to put guards around Bloodguard to keep the women away, and that is really what's in this chapter, by the way.
Yeah, this section of the book, I don't know, maybe we were just having a day when we read it, but there's a lot happening.
There's a lot
here.
going on.
But that does take us to chapter 12, Mercy, Dragon Rider. This chapter opens on us back with Arya and Aragon, just a creep in the friend zone and the lady who put him there out on the open road day.
Aragon hates it. I hate it. Arya hates it.
Arya really hates
it,
dude. But if there's one thing this bean farmer is, it's fucking stubborn. So I don't really see any relief for us soon. I think this goes on for a while.
Nope.
But they're running when they spot a patrol coming straight at them. Through some convoluted logic, they decide it's not worth their energy to hide themselves from the soldiers with magic.
Yeah, I don't get that.
I don't really either. And Aragon's really dealing with some personal trials right now, Dane. So like maybe this state of mind is forgivable in some ways, because like, dude, he's really going through it. He has blisters and one of his big toesies hurts from all the running.
Well, he has been ultra marithoning it up, so that makes sense.
His little feet's hurt.
His little feetsies.
It is just described as foot wounds, by the way. But
foot wounds?
Yeah. Just like he's got blisters and one of his big toes.
I'm going to start referring to blisters as foot wounds.
Foot wounds. That's fair. I'm like, why specify just one big toe? Yeah. Just make him seem like his foot feels like someone cut it off.
Yeah.
Make him seem cool, Chris.
Make it seem metal.
Yes. So they get their disguises together to look like refugees when they meet the lowercase r riders who are coming for them. When the company halts to question them, Aragon is super tense and alert for a potential fight, but thinks that Arya's presence is the only thing keeping him calm because of two insane reasons. One, he doesn't want her to think he's a coward, and like, nothing really to lose here, my guy. She literally called you a coward to your face like 3 days ago.
Yeah.
And the second reason is he's still giving in to the intrusive thought that he feels like he wants to protect Arya, even though he knows she can beat his ass handily. The commitment to this line of reasoning is almost as impressive as it is cringy at this point.
Yeah, it's a lot.
So much. But back to the potential ambush at hand. They're being questioned by a man with what must be the most insane mustache in history, described as, quote, a massive piece of sculpted foliage
I love that.
on his face. And this dude goes on an absolute tirade about how the world is in chaos and for some reason he despises poor people.
Wait. Is this Elon Musk?
I could philosophically, yes. Mustache wise, no. But he's so convinced that Eragon and Arya must be thieves. He sets his men to searching their packs, and they immediately, within seconds, find Eragon's armor. So we have a problem. Major Mustache says that they're basically pressing every man they find on the road into service in the Imperial Army. And he drops the bomb that the army is making every soldier swear an oath, presumably in the ancient language, to Galbatorix, which has made them, quote, the first army in history to be free of dissent. So that is wild, the implications of that.
That is insane.
Yes, on this later in life read through, that strikes me as incredibly bleak. And while dissent might not be a problem among the soldiers, apparently the oaths don't do a fucking thing to prevent them from threatening to find ways for Arya to, quote, be of use to the Empire. And holy shit, these dudes, they gotta go. Like yesterday. It's like crazy. He's like so proud of the army not having, problems with insubordination. But he's like, also, we're huge pieces of shit.
Yes. I'm getting the vibe that they are bad.
Yes.
That the leaders are bad.
Well, thank God Eragon and Arya are getting the same vibe. They make eye contact just real quick and it's on.
Yeah.
We're done. Eragon kicks the fight off by throwing a pebble through Major Mustache's head. Through his head. He picks up a little rock. I guess while they're talking, as soon as they find his armor, he starts like palming a little stone.
Being like, stone.
I probably am. We're going to have to mix it up soon here. And as soon as it goes through a man's head, Dane.
I'm glad he's taking like being a adopted dwarf seriously.
Yes, it's fucking insane. And the ensuing battle is super fun. It's kind of like this Matrix-esque, like very cinematic style with Arya and Eragon doing like lightning fast acrobatics to dispatch these assholes. So like
cool.
they get their comeuppance. I'm thrilled about it. As Arya fights with 2 of the final 3 remaining soldiers, the last one takes off and Eragon chases him down. And as Eragon gains on this like very young man, he has to endure the pleas for mercy and like life story of what is essentially a kid who got drafted and just like doesn't want to die. As repulsive as Eragon finds it, he knows the soldier's oath to Gal would mean death for him and Arya, so he strangles this like young dude, young man.
Really brutal.
It's really, really brutal. Very sad. But when Eragon returns to Arya, who's casually just like learned it from her mama, rinsing the blood from her hands.
I learned it from you, Mom.
I learned it from watching you. Arya does draw the comparison to Sloane, doing a little heavy lifting for the haters here, wondering how Eragon could kill that young soldier just now, but not the butcher. And when Eragon replies that the soldier was an active threat, like this obviously is a problem, Arya actually concedes that she may be starting to understand his point of view on this. She's getting his reasoning here. It's like making sense to her. And as they put their best CSI skills to work disguising their carnage as a slightly less supernatural fight, Eragon's realizing that he can't just keep running around and doing a bunch of massacres with his bare ass hands. He needs a proper sword.
I mean, does he though? I mean, the pebble is working just fine.
Technically right now, yes, but I think long term it might be helpful for him to have like a proper soldier's weapon. Although in Magic Land with magic fights, I really deeply don't understand why. But
he moved from sticks, now it's stones.
And he's definitely breaking bones. I don't know where strangling fits in that children's rhyme, but I'm sure we'll find a spot for it.
Sticks and stones may hurt you, but strangling will definitely kill you. I think that's
strangling
how that goes.
lasts forever. Anyway, this chapter ends as they're setting off on the road again. Arya heals Eragon's mangled hand and tentatively tells him she's glad to have fought with him. She's like kind of hesitant about it.
Yeah.
I think she is trying to be cautious about being nice to him because she knows. So that's about as nice as we can expect from her for now.
The single nicest thing she has ever said of this entire series.
Yeah, that's probably true. I don't know. She said some nice stuff to Saphira.
Chapter 13, Shadows of the Past.
Ooh.
And Jax, this is going to be one of those chapters that is both long and just full of information, and I know it's the last one. I will try to go fast. So I apologize in advance for the summary. I also did try to skip some stuff.
Summary is a strong word for what's about to happen, I think.
If it's something you really liked or I glossed over something that's not in here, I am so sorry. We are still on Eragon and Arya and this road trip. We all want this road trip from hell to end, and it just will not.
There's some cool stuff in this chapter.
Yeah, it's
finally.
Cool. Yeah. Well, in other body mod news, Eragon makes his own fists of steel so he can punch stuff without his hand breaking.
Oh, yeah. Like those things he saw in the dwarves.
Yeah, in book 2 in Eldest.
Yeah, what are those called?
Skudgamlin. Skudgamlin?
Skudgamlin. There's no way to know.
We're
both staring at the word and we're like, we should glaze over that.
I'm sure we could have looked up how to say it, but this is easier. He came with a spell to make fleshy calluses, half an inch thick, that are essentially nail material, like studs on his knuckles.
Okay.
It's fucking metal, and he tests these ugly fists by punching the ground because he's still a teen boy.
I do love that journey for him, yeah.
Yeah, they work, which is cool.
Yeah.
I like this. This is his first body mod, and Arya is not impressed.
Of course not Dane. I think that's kind of just implied at this point.
Yeah. Eragon is plagued by thoughts of the young man he just killed, and he even shouts out in his waking dreams again. It's a poor guy. And in a stunning turn, Arya actually checks on him and comforts him, saying, quote, "The monsters of the mind are far worse than the ones that actually exist."
Yeah.
But I love that she goes on to list those monsters, bringing up fear, hate, greed, and jealousy. And Eragon throws in love. He throws in love.
Dude, he is so like love struck. It's wild.
Painful.
He's so emo.
Yeah.
Just pining away, journaling.
Yeah.
Singing so much Dashboard Confessional.
It's so true. Arya includes the elves in this, but I would say her tone says she really thinks they are above it all. Gotta add elitism to the Arya bingo card. Arya continues to be an asshole as they continue to discuss being bothered by killing. But when they get to know how she would feel when you kill someone, Arya speaks of the first time she killed someone was an Urgle.
Yeah.
And how it almost drove her mad. And apparently she just logics her way out of bad feelings and sends herself to a happy place, the gardens of her home.
Oh.
And this works. Yeah, it works for her. Yeah.
If that's what you got to do, that's what
Do what you need to do.
I like that she's like, well, I just apply cold logic
Yeah.
and reasoning to my emotions.
And then
that'll
escape.
wrestle them into a box. And you're like, what?
What?
Uh-oh.
That's not healthy. Well, maybe it is. I don't know. She says you need to find a place within yourself to do some breath work. Remember stump time, basically.
Well, that is probably what Ormus would tell him, to be honest.
Yeah.
Just remember stump time, bro.
Yeah, I don't know. Then Eragon gets a little racist talking about the Urgles. Arya actually is a bro here. She basically says they're not inherently evil, just a culture obsessed over war.
Yeah.
And Eragon thinks of Ormus and the text he made Eragon read in Eldest about the Urgles. And it dawns on me that Eragon might understand the culture of the Urgles more than any non-Urgle citizen in the world other than Ormus.
That
and
is
he
wild.
is still
That's
racist.
probably right, dude.
Yeah. But he seems to kind of get it here.
Well, probably the only person he's going to take advice from is Arya.
Yeah,
so
that's actually
at least
true.
it's a good thing she's here
Yes.
telling him to be less of a racist. But it is a little bit of a tough look for our guy.
It's tough, man. Eragon asked about the ambush in the prologue of book 1, wondering how that could have happened. Like, when the elves are on their horses and like if they were warded, how did that work? And actually, this is a great question, Eragon. Yeah. Good job. Those brain teasers Bram and Ormus did are working.
The brain teaser travel chapter was
wild.
Morale was low that week.
She says that Durza bragged during his torture about an enchantment he put on the bows that bypassed their wards and that she herself did not know what it was.
Oh, that's a bad thing to know, is just lurking out in the universe.
I know Eragon needs some of those. It's insane. I bet, do you think Gal knows?
About the wards?
About the wards that
Probably.
About the enchantments that break wards?
I bet.
I mean, yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Bet. It seems like something like he and Durza probably cooked up together.
That sounds like our boy Gal.
Our kind and just emperor?
Our just ruler and rightful king. This leads to Arya talking about her torture with Eragon, which she is clearly having trouble with. She tries to be pretty evasive with Eragon, also a rogue, level 6. But our boy gets her to open up. Arya talks of her last boyfriend, Pheolin, and how she used to confide in him, travel with him, clearly loved him for 20 years.
Yeah.
And to her credit, she does say she's being spiteful and mean.
Yeah.
So Aragon also gets an apology for how intense she's being. It's all very nice, actually. This section's heavy. Arya cries about her lost love and the horrors of war. She talks about the torture Durza worked on her. It seems gruesome and intense, and Arya maybe went a little mad seeing things that weren't there in her cell. She even worries she did go mad and that everything since her escape has been a dream. So it's pretty sad.
Yeah.
She basically grieves and shares with Aragon, and I had to say this is huge because she's so private, and this is bonding at the highest levels.
Yeah.
She tells him she used to be happy and sing and dance, and Aragon touches her hand for a while as a friend.
Is it as a friend?
I don't think it's as a friend for him.
It does say that from his point of view. It's like, I didn't mean anything by it. And it's like,
I think you mean
you probably did, though.
I think you do.
But I think she does. She accepts the gesture.
Yes.
That's kind of what the writing makes a point of. It's
Yes.
like, he touched her hand. She let him. And you're like, well.
She gives consent. Yes.
Yes. After this whole thing where she's like, I've been tortured and beaten and my life is terrible. And he's like, let me touch you when you clearly have never wanted that in the past. And you're like, dude.
Yeah, it's rough. Well, to impress her and make her feel better, he sings and casts a spell that grows a foot-tall, deep-throated lily.
Oh.
That's right. In this set of chapters, it's called a deep-throated lily. This book is horny.
I don't think it's just us. It might be. It's probably
It's probably just us.
But it's not just us. There is some there.
Well, she takes it immediately and buries it so it can grow. She explains that he didn't know what a flower would mean to her because he's not an elven, but it means a lot in elven culture. And Aragon says, quote, I knew, which is badass.
I knew.
It's his first cool moment with her that he's like, I knew. Just that he knew, which is whatever, but that he's not letting Arya just underestimate him at every turn is finally happening. Arya apologizes to him and promises not to make this mistake again. Okay, we'll see.
I mean, we're on a total of 3 apologies in this section so far.
I know, she is working her way out of this. I'm starting to like her as this goes on. Arya then reveals that Arin, Brom's ring that Aragon has energy in it.
Oh my God.
Brom is clutch.
Remember when I read this, I was like, are you kidding me?
I know, I got a little mad. Brom is clutch even from the grave.
Dude.
Arin is full of, quote, a vast swirling pool of energy.
Thank you, Magic Daddy.
And he wondered that it did not explode.
That's crazy.
It's fucking dope, Brom. I miss you, dude.
I know.
Our little storyteller. Also,
gone too soon.
This does irritate me a bit because I was thinking of like the 2 million times that it would have saved Aragon some trouble. Our sweet little Kevin.
Actually, it is kind of weird. There's a question I don't think really occurred to me on any of my previous reads, but are there safeguards around who can access stored energy like in Brom's ring? Like if Aragon just goes marching his ass into battle with Arin, could Murtagh just roll up and drain it immediately? I'm like, because if Arya is the one who noticed it, could she have just been like, I am feeling a little sleepy?
I think the answer is yes. But Murtagh would have to notice it first. So he would have to be like looking for that sort of thing. And I also think you'd have to like open your mind to get it.
That makes sense. So
right?
that would kind of put you at risk if you're in battle. That makes sense.
I think so, right?
I guess, too, I don't know, just the stored energy thing seems difficult because if Aragon is constantly just like so woven into the land with his consciousness at all times, like how is he not picking that up?
It is weird that he didn't pick it up. I think so. That is a thing the haters bring up.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Sorry, haters.
Yeah, you're bringing up haters.
No.
Anyway, Aragon talks about Thorn and how he's being forcibly grown by Like I said, this chapter covers so much ground. We also learned that the Forsworn's dragons have had their names scrubbed from all of history and memory by the ancient magics of the dragons during the Riders' War. Over time,
love that the dragons use their ancient wisdom to just be fucking petty.
I know, it was dope. Over time, the Forsworn dragons essentially lost their sentience until they were nothing more than animals. And 5 of the Forsworn went mad as a result of that. They call it the banishing of the names. Both Galbatorix's dragons, though, were spared, as the first was dead before Gal went nuts. I mean, it's the reason he went nuts, right? Yeah. And the second was enslaved through magic. So,
so that's why we know Shrukin's name?
Yeah, so dragons are fucking metal.
Dude.
Because it's not Shrukin's fault, right?
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And also, Aragon isn't the only one picking up coping skills in this chapter. Arya has apparently learned Aragon's favorite trick of drawing little pictures in the dirt. Like, the whole time she's telling him all this, she's just like, using a little stick to draw some little pictures down in the dirt by our feet.
Wonderful.
Yes.
And as this info dump continues, we learn that at least 3 elves in history have discovered Gal's true name.
Wild.
But he casts a spell that kills anyone that speaks his true name.
That's what I mean. I feel like he's out here just finding loopholes
He
for
is. Which leads me to believe he knows his true name. So this strategy has been abandoned by everyone except Oramus, who is a boss.
shit. Yeah. Ormus is fearless. He's
yeah.
like, I might figure it out. I might
try
crack
it.
that nut.
Yeah. Arya then weaves a beautiful ship out of grass that flies in the air. It will pull energy from the plants to keep it flying forever. It's very wonderful and whimsical. Then spirits appear because, again, everything in the world happens in this chapter. They are spheres that look like pulsing lights and hum. One comes in front of Arya, and she touches it and speaks with it. It flashes colors and approaches Aragon, frightened. Aragon touches the spirit, and a huge presence of joy and distilled happiness fills his head. It goes through his memories at hyperspeed, but he can't understand it when he probes back. And finally, it leaves him to rejoin the other spirits, and they explode out and race away.
Crazy.
Yeah, Aragon's silver tattoo is glowing after they meet. Arya then tells him of spirits, that they send you happy and good feelings to make you trust and protect them. That's wild.
It's like how puppies are cute. So
yes.
like
babies.
have evolved,
Yeah.
yes, to be cuter than they were before, so that when they shit on your floor, you're not as mad at them.
Exactly.
Do you think these spirits have a problem shitting on the floor?
Yes. The spirits are not house trained. They don't want to be trapped,
Okay.
right? So spirits are completely alien. They don't understand any of the other races, and the races don't understand the spirits.
Great. Two-way
So
street.
any interaction is very risky, I
Okay.
guess. Spirits are also not ghosts or the spirits of the dead, but Arya won't say what they are or how to work with them.
Oh, yeah, because
Yeah.
this is the sorcerer's
This
bread
is the
and
sorcerer
butter.
stuff.
Gotcha.
Yeah, this is how you get like shades and stuff. She wants Oramus to fill him in and not confuse the lesson. And Arya tells him that she told the spirits how he freed the spirits in Durza.
Okay.
And then realizes that the flower he grew for Arya, the deep-throated lily,
Jesus Christ.
is still growing and alive, but is now pure gold with rubies and diamonds
Wild.
inside. It's a thank you gift.
Yeah.
And thank God this chapter fucking ends. It's over. I'm so sorry. I had to go over all that stuff. I try to cut it down. That is wild.
Yeah, there technically is more in there, I guess. But
Oh, there's
I think
a lot
that was
more
a good
in there.
summary. It just is interesting. I think in a book where we've talked maybe a little bit about how, the pacing is picking up, it feels like consequential things are happening the
Yes.
whole time, in this book so far. This feels like we've really taken a step back into world building really quickly.
Well,
and we get to use Arya as our proxy to do that.
I agree with that. And also, I think it is nice. I'm not a big fan of Arya, but because stuff,
What?
because stuff like this hasn't happened.
Yeah.
So I feel like I understand Arya better now.
Yeah, we haven't seen her just chill and
Yeah.
be a person.
Because I can infer that she's had horrible things happen to her, and maybe that's why she's, mean. But it would be nice to get some insight into that, throughout, so that
I guess it's just tough because the closest person to her is Aragon, and I feel like it's very understandable for her character why she doesn't want to give him
yeah,
anything to grasp onto. And even in this chapter, of course she opens up, and that is good. And it's nice. It feels well earned that we get
Yes.
that from her finally, but it's only because Aragon is
weird.
poking her and prodding her and needling.
Yeah.
He's
You're right.
almost
I don't disagree.
in a way. No, I know, but
Yeah.
it's almost in a way that's I deserve for you to open up to me
Yeah.
because I'm here for you, and it's
I almost wonder if the solution would have been to just have Arya chapters throughout all this.
yeah,
it would-
give her a point of view.
Yeah, because I think the problem I struggle with is I totally agree with what you just said. The only person we can interpret from is a creep, and it's bothering her, right?
Yeah.
So it's I get that, but at the same time, it's it'd be nice to get some internal reminding every now and then,
Yeah.
from her point of view.
And I
you know?
guess for all of that, it just is a tough situation. I think that Christopher Paolini's in here. I mean,
Yes.
of course, he set it up himself in some ways, but I think I understand how he wants their relationship to feel real and friendly and warm and intimate.
Yes.
But he's definitely put himself in a place where Aragon is pursuing hard and Arya's not having it. So now he has to
yeah. Well, it
go
also
about finding ways around those roadblocks.
it would also make Aragon. It would cut both ways because it would also make Aragon feel less creepy.
Oh, for sure.
Because if we got from Arya's perspective some positive signs, then that would alleviate some of that as well.
Yeah, of course. And I think that's a lot of people's problem online too, right? With Arya is that she's like so cool.
Oh no,
so
she
badass.
is loved.
So but part of the problem that some people you're not alone. I don't think by any stretch of the imagination.
We're in the minority, but we're out there.
Yeah. But the way I hear it is like it's hard to have her be so competent, so like unfailingly successful at things.
Yeah.
And not have her be more of a main character in some ways. It feels like, okay, if you're gonna make her this fucking cool, why is she not the main character?
Especially because we get Nasawada POVs.
Yeah.
And not that they're both women, but just like we get Roran POVs.
Yeah.
Arya is in the mix.
For sure.
The whole time.
Yeah. I think she's probably the character who's on screen the most without a POV.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
For sure.
Yeah, anyway.
It would be nice to get. Well, and I like her, so I would love it.
Yeah. No, I actually would like it too.
Yeah.
It might solve my feelings.
Probably. But you are right. You did finally wrap up that meaty, beefy chapter, Dane. I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
Writing that was a fun day.
It was a fun day together.
Yes. But I want to now get into this episode's analysis section.
It's time for analysis.
I want to talk about a couple things, but I want to start by checking in with something we haven't talked about since season 1.
Ooh, yay.
An oldie but a goodie.
Yeah.
But I wanted to catch up with where we are in this narrative in terms of Joseph Campbell's hero's journey.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. If you want a quick brush up on the major stages, we'll link an article I used for reference in the show notes just about like how this works generally. And if you want to tackle the beast and read Campbell's book, I'll link that as well. But
good luck.
Yes, that's ambitious. This is an interesting series in terms of the hero's journey for me, because I think in a lot of ways, this story and these characters are very conventional versions of the monomyth. We've obviously, something you've talked about with the haters overlooking this when they accuse it of being derivative.
Yeah.
So it's something we've touched on at length, but that's a story for you and another time, I think.
Yeah. Don't get me started.
Yeah. So what is maybe a little counterintuitive about that for me is that as familiar as some of these concepts may be, the actual arc of the series taken as a whole doesn't necessarily like strictly adhere to the order of the hero's journey as it's laid out, which is not a necessity by any stretch of the imagination, but I think the point of it being laid out as the monomyth is that if you follow the stages in order, you get that like predictable and satisfying payoff. That's kind of the idea.
Yeah, you can like mix and match sometimes, but the general whole is kind of the same.
Yeah, so I think where a lot of it feels very archetypal in so many ways, the order of it definitely feels like Paolini picked and chose and like worked around and like bounced around.
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Yeah. So if we start with just the first book, Aragon, we get a more or less straightforward romp through the early steps laid out in the hero's journey: call to adventure, supernatural aid, belly of the whale, road of trials, meeting allies. Sound familiar? Yeah. But we almost skip over a few steps to a major confrontation in that book without getting the traditional like atonement is the name of the stage. It oftentimes is like a turn of the circumstances. Okay. And the ultimate boon in which the original call to adventure is fulfilled, or like the entire return to the ordinary world that usually wraps up the hero's journey. Yeah. And when we get into Eldest, we're running back the tape with Aragon as he's called to train with Ormus. So we're getting a new call to adventure. He encounters more obstacles during his training, gains a ton of new allies there, obviously, and experiences an entire death and rebirth, merging his identity from his ordinary life with who he must become as a rider. Yeah. And as the best kind of bonus, we also get the atonement or turn at the end of Eldest with the bombshells about Murtagh.
Yes.
And as if that wasn't enough for Christopher Paolini to give us, Eldest also sees the beginning of Roran's hero's journey. And his arc, again, just like Aragon's at first, is much more linear and condensed if we focus on the Katrina of it all, which is exactly what Roran, I think, would want us to do.
That's all he wants.
Yes. Yeah. So he gets his call to adventure, leaves Carvajal, goes through his first major conflict, travels on an actual, like a literal road full of trials and obstacles, meets allies and rich friends, has his atonement both in confronting his internal struggle to assume leadership and also in reconciling with Aragon at the end of Eldest. And he starts his apotheosis with a badassery on display when he kills the twins at the Battle of the Burning Plain. So he's like leveling up. He's getting ready for his major conflict. So that leaves us essentially into very different positions, I think, here in the early parts of Brisingr. Okay. Our first episode of the season saw Roran start to put a bow on his hero's journey with the rescue of Katrina as the culmination of his apotheosis, his ultimate boon, essentially fulfilling his very first call to action. So in my reading, Roran just needs to wrap up the return portion of his arc, which in the midst of this war promises a lot more action and drama for him. It's not going to be like an easy return by any means, but this is kind of the act of him trying to get back to his normal life, trying to get back to like...
to be a farmer again.
Or to be, I think the idea with the hero's journey is you take where you started as an ordinary person, you merge it with this extraordinary identity that you've gained and all these skills, and then you have to return that extraordinary person back to a regular life somehow and like meld your two identities together. So some version, of his like whatever his real life is going to be now.
The hammer merchant.
yes, exactly. So Aragon, though, on the other hand, is out in the world, separated from all of his daddies or mentors, I guess, as Joseph Campbell insists on calling them.
They're daddies.
They're daddies, Joseph. Get a grip. But more importantly right now, Aragon's separated from Saphira. So to me, it's feeling like we're hopping back on the road of trials with Aragon, only this time it's much more of a test of his growth, his own personal growth and skill. So I'm excited to see which steps we're going to work back up to kind of as he levels up in this book. Like, is Chris going to give us a new supernatural ally? That would be fun. Or a new atonement, another big turn of the circumstances.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Maybe a twofer, maybe somebody supernatural who also changes the game in this book. Like, that's the kind of stuff I think maybe we're looking forward to if we're taking this.
Bird tag.
Bird tag, the last straw, Zach.
Hello. I'm a vegan.
The vegan Razak. Oh my God. I think, though, one thing that might help set a reasonable expectation for the timing of some of the coming points in the hero's journey is that Christopher Paolini originally wanted the inheritance cycle to be a trilogy. You mentioned that, I think, in our first episode.
Yeah.
But Brisingr was split into the final 2 books of the cycle after he'd outlined the plot and started writing. So I think in a way we can expect to see Aragon working his way through a few more obstacles, making new discoveries in this book, but like the climactic payoff, like his apotheosis, his ultimate boon, like wrapping up his original call to action. I think we're going to have to wait until Inheritance to see some of that.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Yes. And then there's one other thing I want to touch on that came up a few times in this section of chapters. Not necessarily a theme, just an idea that it feels like we keep getting ties to.
Okay.
And that's body modification.
Oh,
something we appear to be ruminating on.
Yeah.
So we see this early on with Arya's like light transformation into more of a normie, slightly less hot. But you know, she rounded out her ears. She's becoming a little bit human.
Wearing a dress now.
She's wearing a dress now. But we see this also briefly with Roran ruminating on his finally like completely healed shoulder.
Yes.
And closer to the end of the section, we see this with Aragon remembering the dwarven fists of steel and coming up with his knuckle callus idea. And then obviously, most prominently, with our very own Sex Panther Bloodguard. If that's not body modifications, dog, I don't know what it is.
60% of the time, every time.
Yes. I mean, quick aside, do you think any part of Bloodgarm's like Sex Panther aesthetic is rooted in Christopher Paolini being a huge Anchorman stan?
100%. And when they cast this show, Bloodgarm must be played by Paul Rudd.
Hey, that would work.
That would work
well. That man has charisma. He's got pheromones.
He's got sex pheromones.
Yes. Well, that movie's a masterpiece. So I could see, and I feel like timing wise, he could have been really into Anchorman around the time he wrote this.
He's older than us a little bit, right?
Yes, that's a conspiracy theory for everyone.
Yeah, that's we can't prove that.
No.
Okay.
No, but I do want to talk about these bod mods because they're feeling very reminiscent of something we touched on a couple of times in Eldest in the analysis, and that's the idea of your physical appearance or your body being a pivotal part of your identity.
Yeah.
We saw Roran struggle through this with his initial shoulder injury. That's why I think like it feels very tied to this when he's thinking about his shoulder now.
Yeah.
As well as Aragon had to come to terms with this as his appearance changed drastically just without his control.
Yeah.
But now Aragon and Roran have both made it to a positive version, I think, of rooting their identities in their physical bodies. Like in Eldest, it was a lot of like working through some like complicated or negative emotions. And here, I think they're both on like the, damn, I look good, check me out.
Yeah.
You know, like Aragon, like you mentioned, is thinking a lot. He's very fixated on like, I smell good and I see good.
And I can
like,
hear good.
Yeah. Which makes a lot
And
of
I
sense.
feel
And I
good.
feel good. And we all know I look good. So yeah.
Isn't he described as an elf but rugged?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful but rugged Dane.
It's amazing.
Yes, and Roran obviously is just hot as fuck.
I mean, he's roaring.
And he has been finally, like, he had that injury that really shook his confidence in his own physical body, which I know happens a lot as you age and just like have injuries that shake you. But I think having that healed and healed magically is kind of returning him to like, okay, this is not something that maybe is going to plague me my whole life, and I can work through these things and be rewarded, get to the other side of it. So I think it makes sense here with them both being in that place with regard to their bod mods.
Yeah.
I think it makes sense to introduce a character like Bloodgarm here, who like really represents the culmination of like having a positive association with rooting your identity and your outward appearance.
Yes,
you know?
Totally agree.
Yeah. And I think it's a subtle tie-in to the kind of juggernaut theme of the entire series, obviously coming of age. We have this new touch point in this book for an idea that started in the last book and shows how our characters are growing and progressing, becoming new people.
Yeah.
We love to see it.
Yes.
So that's what I have for you on analysis this time, Dane. What is on the docket for a deep dive?
That was awesome, man. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Let's go to a deep dive.
I like that you appreciated it, even though I made fun of your recent injury.
Yeah, by the way, I was injured recently, and there was a little bit of just for context. That's why I was like, don't make fun of me.
We had to question our identity a little bit, our mortality.
I may be questioning my age a little bit, but
It's
we're
fine.
gonna move right
Who
on.
hasn't? We've all been there.
Yeah. Here's a deep dive. Last episode, we talked about how the war is going for the Varden side, but we've never really talked about the war from the Empire's perspective.
We've talked about what from the Varden side?
The war.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So this time I want to dive into what it might feel like to be a citizen of the great and powerful broadening empire under the protection of the just and rightful king Galbatorix.
Oh, good.
Yes.
We're back there.
Yeah.
We've made a full turnaround
Yes.
on.
This propaganda will be about the war. Yes. Yeah, a little different.
I do miss the wall, but don't worry, I'll be there for that side of it.
Yeah. I want to start by going over the Empire's borders, allies, and troop movements. So let's dig into it.
Yes.
The lands Galbatorix controls. Gal controls the territory from his most southern city of Oros, which is right outside Cerdai, just a little southwest of where the Varden troops are now at the Burning Plains,
Gotcha.
to his most northern city of Sianon,
Yes.
which is between the Spine and the force of Duvangr Varda.
Somebody's city of Siunan, maybe not Gal's.
I was saying, remember, the Sianon is the city the elves just captured. The Empire stops at the Haderach Desert in the east and the ocean to the west, and the capital of the Empire is Urobane, and that's pretty central, not far east of Drasleona, where
Got it.
Aragon started his lonely journey last week.
Yeah.
It's a very large area.
Okay.
For allies and internal relationships, we know that Gal's government is an absolute monarchy, and he has authoritarian control over his government.
Love to see it.
He would never overuse that, though. We know he has a magical spy organization called the Black Hand, and that feeds him intel and carries out assassinations for him.
Okay.
As you do.
Fun, guys.
And until very recently, he also had the aid of the twins as the moles in the Varden,
Oh, yeah.
the Shade Durza, and the Razak. Those are all gone now.
An all-star team.
Yeah, we know that they were not nice people.
No, this is the dream team.
Seriously,
Is this the Olympics in the 90s?
Yeah.
Summer Olympics?
it's like for whatever reason was thinking of Space Jam.
Yes.
Like the team. Yeah. We know that the government does not support its smaller, far-removed communities like Garvahal and allow slavery and death cults to prosper.
Dane, I think you mean they cannot support their smaller, far-removed communities. The government isn't there to protect everybody. I know you forget that a lot.
I always forget
thinking
it.
people deserve protection from their government that they pay taxes to, but you're wrong.
You're right. This is the broadening empire's propaganda. Yes. You're absolutely right. Getting into what we know about his management style with his metal band, the 13 Forsworn,
right.
Galbatorix actively encouraged competition and hate between them.
Tough boss.
So it's probably not a leap to assume that there's more than a touch of discontent among the leaders of his government, which leads to his military. As far as like troop movements, we actually have some good information.
Yeah.
It was noted in Aragon that Gal kept a pretty large standing army, but wasn't using them in the first book.
Okay.
Preferring to send the Empire soldiers to the borders to keep back the Urgles, heavy on quotation marks. This misinformation was likely to spread to cover the fact that the Urgles led by Durza were moving through the Empire in an effort to sacrifice them striking at the Varden under Furthendur.
Furthendur.
Also, I'm going to assume, based on what we saw in Eldest, that Gal's navy is quite strong. You'll remember that all the merchants, including Jode, who were trading with Serta and the Varden, lost all their vessels and goods to quote-unquote pirates. Yes. Again, heavy air quotes. And never forget how fucking nice the Dragon Wing was when Roran steals it. So with that information, I'm going to extrapolate that Gal has the ability to move troops quickly through strong naval control of the coastlines, rivers, and lakes.
Okay.
So far, the battle has not been going well for Gal.
Yeah.
The Empire likely would have won the battle under Furthendur if Durza hadn't been killed.
Yeah.
The Varden and the Dwarves were surprised, and the Varden only had a fraction of his actual size in that battle, since the majority of the troops were in Serta.
Yeah, so it was a good move in theory, strategically,
yes.
and so a big blow because it did not pan out.
It did not work. And so after, and like the Urgles then ended up siding with the Varden, so it's not good for him. So after that battle, over the next 3 to 5 months, Galbatorix drafted and sends over 100,000 troops.
That is wild.
Yeah, supported by spellcasters Murtagh and Thorn to the Battle of the Burning Plains. And this outnumbers the Varden 3-1 in that battle.
Yes.
But the Empire manages to cock this one up too because of the quality of the Varden's troops.
Okay.
The super endurance of the Dwarves, the influx of fresh Carvahallermen near the end of the battle, and the raw strength of the spurned Urgles who allied with the Varden at the last minute, like we talked about.
Yeah.
So, which leads us to where we are in this book. The Empire is full of soldiers. So I think they're obviously pressing even more men into service after the defeat at the Burning Plains, and more than likely
concerning for the, I mean, they're terrorists, so we don't want to be concerned for them, but a little concerning for our guys at the Varden.
It's a little concerning. And more than likely moving the bulk of their troops to the front. I'm assuming to reinforce the cities closest to the Varden horde.
Gotcha.
It's very tense.
Yes.
As I mentioned, the common troops are mostly conscripts, and we see how Gal, through his ruthless cunning, might have found a way to improve on this often lacking arm of the military. So conscripts are normally less effective for the obvious reasons. Yeah. They're men with little training in war and have little to no desire to fight in one.
Yes.
But in
a problem, typically.
Yes, exactly. But in this section, we get an insight to how Gal may have improved upon this institution.
Good
him. Old Gal.
He's an innovator, Dane. The man.
he's got to break things.
The man's a renegade.
Yeah. Gal has invented the Oath of Service, an oath in the ancient language that compels the soldiers of the Imperial Army to follow orders. If Gal's conscripts are ordered to hold a section to the last man or charge into the opposing forces, with all they have no choice but to do it, making them extremely effective branch of the military, which otherwise would be a weakness.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I want to end today's deep dive with just Gal as a leader real quick.
Yeah.
Unlike a lot of books, we have no idea what our main villain is like. We can
Well, you do if you listen after the credits.
Yeah, exactly. We can make some guesses, and we know his history, but we haven't seen him or any of his human allies on screen at all. But I do want to walk through some things we can surmise about the man. First, Galbatorix is ruthless. The move to exterminate the Urgles through the extermination of the Varden shows a man who doesn't waste what he can use. We know Galbatorix hates the Urgles. They killed his first dragon. But instead of genociding them right away, he saved them for over 100 years. So he didn't have to lose any soldiers killing the terrorist organization that's been plaguing
that kind of dedication to pettiness, dude.
Yeah, our boy is cunning, cold, and calculated.
And loves revenge.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to fault him for that. Also, Galbatorix is clearly a man who values ruthless leaders. From Durza to the Razak to the twins to what we heard from Murtagh's time at court to the creation of the Black Hand to Major Mustache in this section, Galbatorix has bred a network of leaders who are ruthless and always jockeying for more power, it seems like. And finally, I think Galbatorix uses fear above all else to control the country. These last years must have been horrifying for all but the most wealthy in this nation. There were Urgals marauding throughout these smaller towns of the Empire, pirates disrupting the flow of trade, and both of those were him. And he's clearly interested in actively... yeah, right? And he's clearly interested in actively stoking fear of the Varden terrorists,
Yes.
the new dragon and rider, and the Varden alliance with the Urgals. This isn't mentioning the constant background hum of slavery, death cults.
Oh, just like the everyday reality of this empire being a shitty place to live.
Yeah, and the small acts of rebellion being quelled by putting entire towns full of people to the torch.
Oh,
Remember, that's why
yeah.
Murtagh originally runs away.
Oh, God.
So Gal has done a good job of controlling his empire through pure fear, not just through daily misinformation, but by effectively rewriting history.
Yes.
Remember when Aragorn meets the first elves and eldest? We see that he doesn't have a correct accounting of history, and even the songs and epics that he knows are barely scratching the surface of what the humans used to know. Hell, in Aragon, it's amazing that Brom can even tell the story of Galbatorix coming up because people are disappeared for talking about it in that first book. So if you're in a general member of the population, it makes sense that you hate the Varden. They're terrorists. Fear all the other races, especially the Urgals, and think your leader Gal is holding it all together. It's like surprising places like Carvajal with the remote population and have empire skeptics and haters at all. Like, it's just surprising that place exists. So that's Gal in the state of the empire and their war.
Cheery. I miss the wall.
Yes, but you know who also rules through fear and misinformation? The haters. Oh, no. So it's a perfect time to head to What Are the Haters Saying?
Actually, you should do your research, huh? Have you even read it? How you pronounce it?
What are the haters saying?
No, there is an index in the back, right?
This is overly derivative.
Haters, I can feel you simmering about the brutal outrages of this episode's set of chapters, and Aragorn is a morally bankrupt character.
Well, yes, Dane, he's a sociopath.
Yeah, but he killed the poor little soldier guy. I get it, and I will talk about it, but I have decided rather than touch on this every episode, I will make the haters wait until the very last episode of this season when I do a thorough unpacking of Aragorn and his morality.
Wait, haters.
Yeah, all at once. You'll get it all.
Sit tight.
Yeah, wait in your own time. So this time, I'd like to bring up something that the haters harp on several times in the series, but ultimately it's easy to refute and connect to what I just covered in the deep dive.
Oh, good. We love thematic consistency, Dane.
Hell yeah. This is the hate for how the hell Galbatorix overthrew the ancient riders if there were elven magic users like Bloodgarm and his crew running around. Not to mention all the riders and their dragons. It just doesn't make sense, they scream. And all he had was 13 riders, blah, blah, blah. So this is the pretty cut and dried and has been explicitly explained. This is pretty cut and dry.
Yeah.
Gal was the greatest of all the riders at mind magic. He was also exceptional at the subtle and intoxicating art of coercion.
Oh.
Yeah. With these two skills, he used treachery on an order that had become lax with its absolute power and, frankly, a little too big for its britches.
Yeah.
We know the riders were spread out across the continent, often alone on missions. If there were a few hundred riders and dragons, which seems more than likely due to some of the foreknowledge in the future, and I don't want to spoil anything, but I will come back to this once it comes up. Gal's takeover wouldn't be hard to do. We aren't talking about thousands and thousands of riders here. It's not an army. Galbatorix also didn't wage a war in the conventional sense. He attacked 1 and 2 riders at a time, taking over the riders' minds and killing the dragons afterwards.
Yeah.
Galbatorix also deployed people like Durza from the beginning of his coup. And never forget that only 2 people in the history of Alagasia have been able to kill a shade before Aragorn.
That's true. And presumably from an early time, he was also working with the Razak, who are tailor-made to hunt riders, magicians, humans.
Yes.
Generally.
I think that is after stated by Ormus to be after he's already won, but I'm going to assume there's stragglers and they helped clean those up because they do get told that they were dragon killers. So it's a little conflicting information. That's why I didn't add it, but I think you're right. Me and you are on the same page on that. So if that's not enough for you haters, I think you're being intentionally obtuse, and I will not have it on this podcast. I rest my case.
I love a good, clean evidence in the text. Back off, haters.
Yeah, there's reasons for it. If you don't like it, whatever.
That's your problem. That's just your opinion, man.
Yeah, it's okay. Well, there is a reason. You just don't like the reason. Yeah. Okay, that's it.
Yes.
That's all I have.
Well, this section was beefy. How are you feeling heading into
Feeling a
Maybe
little
some
hot.
more.
Little sex hormones,
Dude.
roaring, doing push-ups and pushing boulders.
Well, I was gonna say, as far as foreshadowing is concerned, I
Yeah.
don't think that bodes well for where we're headed with
No.
Aragon and Arya, given that their big chapter was in this absurdly horny section. I'm worried about that. It's
Yeah.
nice to see Arya being just a regular, reasonable, cordial human, or elf, but
Yeah, I will say for those listeners who are like, I don't know why Dane doesn't like Arya. I do, like, in this section, I like Arya.
Yeah.
This makes sense. But, like, you know,
you
she's
don't
growing
like that
up.
she's mean to your baby boy.
I have a hard time with it.
Yeah.
He's such a simple bean farmer. I mean, he just doing his
But
best.
he's just nice. He's way out of his depth.
Oh.
And like,
That's just him in most things, though.
yeah, I think for me, I can like understand her frustration.
Oh,
but,
it makes
but it doesn't
sense.
always need to be so heated.
Yeah, and I can understand her I can understand her motivations for. She's gone through a little bit of a rough time.
Yes, and she's like, this fucking guy.
Now you. Also, can you imagine coming out of like your torture and then it's Aragon who's like, "Hey,
I took your shirt off before, and you're just like, what the fuck?
I seen you naked." And I liked it. Yeah, it's a little weird.
Yeah, I could totally see that. And he just like stalks you all over your house. And he's like, well, I met your mom and I snuck into your bedroom.
Yes.
Dude.
You're like, dude, are you in my bedroom right now looking through my stuff? And he's like, oh, I left you a flower.
To be honest, I'm shocked she didn't kill him.
That's true.
I'm shocked that this book series did not end there with a murder.
She did try though, doesn't she?
No.
When he first goes into her mind, doesn't he attack her and
Oh,
almost
yeah, for sure.
kill her?
Well, the last she saw, she looked at him,
Yeah.
passed out,
Yeah.
and then has like no idea where she is or what's happening. But she was in prison.
That's fair.
And then someone tries to get in her mind, and she's like,
Yeah.
No.
And I hear prison is stressful.
I would imagine so, especially a particularly evil prison in the middle
Durza.
of a well-documentedly evil empire.
Yeah. Well, hey, hold on. That's just propaganda.
That's right. I hate to be on the side of the terrorists, Dane,
Yeah,
but
well,
alas,
okay.
I'm more in favor of the war than the war.
There's actually a haters thing about like Gal being a good guy.
Yes, of course.
There's always a thing about that.
It's always like, was Darth Vader right?
Yeah.
Should we have let the Empire win?
Yeah, is Thanos really the hero we all needed? Yeah.
They did solve a serious problem. Does it matter that he could have just fixed the world
Yeah.
so it wasn't overpopulated?
Just make the world bigger? Make
Nope.
the universe bigger? No.
That'd be crazy.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a reason not. But there's the same thing going on here. But I think we do have to end because I think we're getting too spicy. This was a spicy section.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm hoping we can calm it down for the rest of the season, because if you and I just keep ratcheting this up, these episodes are going to be unlistenable.
We're going to have to make it more explicit somehow. I don't know.
The content warnings are going to have to get serious, which is
Yes,
a problem. They're
exactly.
only fun when they're jokey.
Yeah, we're just messing around. Well, thank you for listening. Make sure to rate and review, especially on Apple Podcasts. Support us on Patreon and check out our social media at Is This Just Fantasy Pod on TikTok or at Just Fantasy Pod on Instagram. If you have any questions or just want to write us about the podcast, we would love to hear from you. And you can email us at isthisjustfantasypod@gmail.com.
That's us. And if you want to keep pace and read along with us, on the next episode, we will be covering Chapter 14, Amid the Restless Crowd, through Chapter 19, Gifts of Gold.
Ooh,
That sounds fun.
it does sound. I like gifts of gold.
I like shiny stuff.
Yeah.
I like
We're
gold.
just two nerds and we love our fantasy. Come on and listen to us next time. Find out what our deep dive will be. Thanks for catching our show.
Just jumping because I'm meal prepping. And I'm meal
All-knowing murder wizard, sir? Sir?
What is it you
Sir,
need?
I do hate to interrupt you while you're counting your macros,
Well,
sir.
then don't interrupt me. This is meal prep
I
time.
do, unfortunately. I have a bit of a mixed...
This chicken and broccoli will not sort itself.
I have a bit of a mixed bag of updates.
This is
I
good.
think-
Mixed bag.
Mixed bag, yes.
Yeah.
I think of some fun surprises, when you're having the same meal for lunch every single day of the week.
So
It seems nice to get some variety, right? Spice
true.
of life,
I
sir?
just want a summer body. I just want a summer party.
I've
Everyone sees the king. I want them to see the abs. You know what I mean?
I've always thought you look beautiful, sir, just for the record.
Well, don't, it's kind of brown nosing. I don't like that.
Really
Anyway.
can't win around here. On that note, sir, you know
What is it?
you know how you love a genocide?
Oh, I haven't had a genocide in quite a while.
Well, great news. We have wiped a species off the face of the planet, sir.
Oh, well, you're right. This is a mixed bag. We're starting strong. This is a compliment sandwich. I'm feeling like. Give me the deets.
So it's your boogie boys. There are no more Razak alive ever.
You know, I was more fond of the leather blocker anyway, so I'm fine with the beaked bastards going. I mean, frankly, the boogie boys.
They were gonna turn on you any day,
Yes,
honestly,
Amy,
sir.
you're absolutely right. Good
also,
help's hard to find. No one wants to work these days.
That is always what I'm trying to tell you, sir, when I come in for my performance reviews. Anyway, I would like to say quickly the leather blocker also are gone. They're dead. They're no more.
What?
Like I said, sir, genocide. Remember where we started?
God.
Remember where we started. So yes, the leather blocker happened to be gone. It was at the hands of the bean farmer
This bean farmer.
and his beautiful, strong brother cousin was there as well.
You mean the hammer guy?
Yeah, he loves his hammer. And
Isn't he a farmer?
well, he did get one of the Razak. He did get one of those beaks right in that hammer.
That seems implausible. It just seems. I'm starting to not believe your updates. This seems wild.
I don't know how to tell you, sir.
It's this fake news media. How do you filter
I think you
what's
should
true?
cling to that. This did happen, though. It's important you know. And just before I go real quick and let you get back to
All right.
steaming
This is the
that
compliment sandwich.
unseasoned broccoli,
Yes.
the bean farmer is currently running through the center of your empire, evading all search parties. I just wanted to
Well,
keep
I mean,
you
just find the
posted.
dragon. Get Thorn and Murtag on him. Wait,
Oh.
hold on. Isn't he a teen?
He is still technically.
How is he running through my empire?
Well, you see, he does run very fast, sir.
Don't we have horses?
I think he maybe runs faster than the horse. The mechanics haven't been worked out yet.
All right, look, this has been stressful. Pull out 15 to 25 villagers randomly. But make them young.
Oh,
And then,
why? Okay, never mind.
just gonna murder them,
Oh.
soothe the time. Shuriken will eat them. And then,
Is that Shuriken's meal prep, sir?
that's, of course. Make sure there's enough rice and broccoli with those kids.
Brown rice? Brown rice? We have
Of
some.
course, healthy carbohydrates. And throw in some powder. He's looking a little soft lately. A little protein on top.
Check. Whey protein on the list from Alleghasian Costco, sir. We've got
Yes.
it.
That's. I love Costco. All right, I'm done for this.